When we imagine medieval castles, we often picture massive stone walls, powerful kings, and brave knights defending their lands. Castles appear in movies and books as magnificent fortresses filled with wealth, power, and noble life. But the truth about medieval castles is far darker than most people realize. Behind the impressive walls and tall towers were secrets that few people talk about today. Life inside castles was not always glamorous. In fact, it could be brutal, uncomfortable, and sometimes terrifying. From secret prison chambers to deadly traps and terrible living conditions, castles hid many dark realities. Today, we are going to explore the dark secrets of medieval castles, and some of them may surprise you. Castles were not comfortable homes. Despite their grand appearance, castles were far from comfortable places to live. Stone walls made castles extremely cold, especially during winter. Fireplaces existed, but heating large stone rooms was nearly impossible. Cold air moved easily through the halls, towers, and corridors. Even wealthy nobles often slept in cold rooms with heavy blankets and furs just to stay warm. Castles were also dark. Windows were small and narrow because large openings could weaken the walls and allow enemies to shoot arrows inside. This meant most rooms had very little natural light. Inside many castles, corridors were dimly lit by candles or torches. The air could become thick with smoke and unpleasant odors. So while castles looked impressive from the outside, living inside them was often uncomfortable and unpleasant. Hygiene was terrible. One of the most shocking secrets about medieval castles is how bad hygiene was. There were no modern plumbing systems. Instead, castles used simple toilets known as garderobes. These were small stone seats built into castle walls. Waste would fall through a vertical shaft and drop directly outside the castle walls or into a moat. While this system worked in a basic way, it created terrible smells and unsanitary conditions. Waste sometimes built up at the bottom of the shafts, attracting insects and rats. Bathing was also rare. Many people believed that frequent bathing could make them sick. As a result, unpleasant smells were common inside castles. Perfumes and herbs were often used to mask the odors. Hidden prison chambers. Many castles contained secret or hidden prison rooms used to hold prisoners. These chambers were often located deep underground. The most feared of these prisons were called dungeons. Dungeons were dark, damp rooms with little or no light. Prisoners could be chained to walls or locked in small cells. Some prisoners were held for years without trial. The conditions were brutal. Food was limited, and the cold underground air made survival difficult. In many cases, prisoners never left these chambers alive. Castles were not only homes and fortresses, they were also places of punishment and suffering. Brutal interrogations. In some castles, special rooms were used for interrogations and torture. Authorities believed that forcing confessions through pain was an acceptable way to obtain information. Devices such as the rack or other torture instruments were sometimes used. Prisoners accused of crimes or treason could be brought to these chambers. Interrogations could last for hours. While not every castle used torture regularly, the possibility of it created a climate of fear. For many prisoners, entering these rooms meant their fate had already been decided. Secret passages and escape routes. Many castles contained hidden passages built inside the walls. These secret corridors served several purposes. Some allowed nobles to move around the castle without being seen. Others were designed as emergency escape routes. If a castle was attacked or captured, the lord of the castle might use these passages to escape. Some passages led outside the castle walls through hidden exits in forests or hillsides. These secret routes were closely guarded secrets. Only a few trusted individuals usually knew about them. In times of war, knowing these passages could mean the difference between life and death. Sieges were horrifying. One of the darkest realities of castle life happened during sieges. When enemy armies surrounded a castle, they would often cut off food supplies and wait for the defenders to starve. Sieges could last months or even years. During this time, food became extremely scarce. Animals were eaten first. Eventually, people inside the castle might be forced to eat rats, leather, or anything else they could find. Diseases spread quickly in crowded castles with poor hygiene. Fear and desperation grew as supplies ran out. Some sieges ended peacefully with surrender. But others ended in massacres when attackers finally broke through the walls. The moat was not always water. Many castles were surrounded by moats. Today we imagine moats filled with clear water. But in reality, moats could be filthy. In some castles, waste and garbage were thrown into the moat. Dead animals and other refuse sometimes ended up there as well. This created a foul smell around the castle. However, this unpleasant environment had one advantage. It made it extremely difficult for enemies to approach the walls. Moats were designed to slow attackers and protect the castle from siege weapons. Life for servants was hard. While nobles lived in the upper parts of castles, servants worked in difficult conditions. Castles required large numbers of workers. Cooks, guards, cleaners, stable workers, and many others kept the castle functioning. Servants often worked long hours doing physically demanding tasks. Kitchens were hot and smoky. Stables were dirty and filled with animal waste. Many servants slept in crowded rooms with little comfort. Their lives were far from the romantic images often shown in films. Conclusion: medieval castles remain some of the most fascinating structures in history. They symbolized power, protection, and wealth. But behind their massive stone walls were many dark realities. Cold rooms, terrible hygiene, hidden prisons, brutal interrogations, and desperate sieges were all part of castle life. While castles protected kings and nobles from their enemies, they were also places where suffering and hardship were common. Understanding these dark secrets helps us see medieval history more clearly. The castles that once dominated the landscape were not just symbols of glory, they were also places where survival could be a daily struggle.